We've got the experts here, so pose the questions to them. Nothing is final yet. We've got a recommendation box out here. We're going to look at every recommendation that we receive. So we need the input. We'll kind of try to consolidate that over the next 2 or 3 weeks. We'll let y'all know what we decide in the end. But let me give you all a little bit of history here. Back in 2016, when Tom was the board director, he established a strategic planning committee. On that committee was Debbie Neale, a few others, Pete Caligaro, and who else, Tom, at the time?
I believe Ian was on it, or
I think
I
Ian
remember
was
Ian was on it too.
Mary Ann and Pete and Ian.
And I think that, I just the three of them.
So that committee recommended to us that we ought to consider building a fitness center because we had outgrown our owners club. Many of you have been here when we've had a function, and it can get very uncomfortable. So the committee recommended, one, we do a standalone fitness facility, and then we get on with renovating or extending this building, the owners club. Importantly, y'all, the funds to improve, renovate this building are in reserve. No cost. I should say no cost, but those funds are accounted for. Now, the fitness center, we've been saving money for about 2.5 years now, and we've been working this for about 2 years now. But we didn't want to pull the trigger until we knew we had sufficient funds to do the work with no assessment increase and no special assessment. And we're in a position now that we can do that. So, Mary Ann, what have I forgotten here?
Just the capital improvement from new owners.
Which is a significant amount of money that we've been able to bring in. So the newbies, if you will, are paying for this to a large extent as well. Not just those of us that have been around for 10, 12, 14 years.
Could you explain that a little further? I don't know what that means.
How
How are they paying for it?
much is the fee when they come in?
$480.
How much?
$480, 1/6 of the yearly assessment, whatever the yearly assessment is at the time. So if the assessment was higher, it'd be higher. If it's, obviously assessments aren't gonna go down. So it's $480 right now, every time a property is sold, whether it's high rise, a single family home, or the brownstones. That's how much is generated.
And we've been fortunate, y'all. We've had a lot of new folks move in here over the last 2+ years. And that's because we got a great community. Okay, so questions about the building itself and the design, please direct those to the smart guys here. We've got a handout here somewhere that lays out the history all the way back to where the Strategic Planning Committee recommended this. And I think you may have it right there. Very good, very good. So if you have questions about that, the history of the science project that we're embarking on, please bring those to any one of the board members. We've all been knee-deep in the middle of this. And ask the hard questions, and give us some recommendations. Again, remember, nothing is done yet. We're just on the cusp of this. But we've been working this for quite some time. So thank you very much for coming on.
Okay. I have a question for the builder.
Bill.
Mr. Jones,
Yes, ma'am.
you told me the building's $495,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Includes the architect fees of 8?
Included.
Okay.
And the structural engineers included in it, all the mechanical.
Okay. So when I was last at a meeting, and it's in the minutes, the cost per square foot, we talked about this, was about $167. Now we're up to $206. Can you tell me the differential and what's in the building and why the cost is $206 per square feet?
I personally never gave anybody a price of the number you said. The only number I've ever given is the 206
Okay.
square foot. So it's 495.
Okay. And you have been selected because you submitted an RFP. You are one of 3 builders,
Yes, ma'am.
and you have been selected. So, and when were you selected?
Now those questions probably ought to come to some of the board members.
Well, then come on back up and we'll ask you.
I'm right.
Please.
I'm right here.
If you get on, this is for the Kelly Plantation plugged-in homeowners.
Nice to see you.
Okay, so when I left here in July, okay, and I left because my father was sick, I videoed that meeting if you remember, and that's when we talked about lower prices, and at that point, on that meeting, it was determined that because of the size of the facility, that we weren't going forward with the fitness center until we had the money, okay? And then I come back in December, and there's been an RFP. I guess someone had to meet, put an RFP together. Tell me who met for the RFP, because that was not in the board meeting minutes.
We have talked about,
Terry, can you, don't stop when you're back to this, stay back.
we've talked about this for some time. I started interviewing builders and architects last summer. I interviewed 3 architects and 3 builders. Went through kind of a lengthy resume review process. I think it was in October.
Well, how did you select those builders?
I was appointed, or director asked by the director, to lead this project. So I did the interviews. Keith
Okay.
was with me sometimes, Carolyn was with me sometimes. Ultimately, we first settled on Alan as the architect.
And the entire board was aware of this, all 6, 7
I
members?
briefed it. Board members, anybody speak up that did not know this?
But because it was not in a board meeting, the homeowners didn't know it.
How many board meetings have you attended in the last 6 months?
I have attended one because my father had a tumor and died of cancer.
I'm sorry about that.
Yep, and I have asked people, and nobody seems to have these answers. I come back and all of a sudden, we're moving forward with a $500,000 building, and this one wasn't even, the expansion's not even included, and the homeowners, I'm talking to homeowners and nobody knows what's going on.
Excuse me, I can only speak for myself, but I think I've been to at least 3 board meetings, and it was discussed in all those board meetings.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
And again, we had a handout here. Have you had a chance to read it yet? That goes.
Must have come in, I've been here since 9:30, I didn't see it, so.
Right.
It's here on the
Okay.
table, and I think that will help you with the audit trail, if you will, with respect to what we did when, with what approvals. Okay, other questions?
I have a question.
Please.
And I think it's, the chronological statement here is really helpful. What happens after we build the building? How is it going to be maintained, staffed?
It's a great question. Keith has done an analysis on a maintenance and sustainment fee. What cost will we accrue with maintaining the facility? And it's a rough cut right now, but the numbers that we're looking at, we can maintain the facility well within our budget. We see no wrinkles there. But that's a very good
Are
question.
you going to have to staff it? It is a 2,400 square foot building.
Well, we're gonna use the same staff that we have now. You know Marvin and you know Karen, I think you see them out here working hard every day. There will be some increases, like there'll be some incidental increases in cost.
And you thought about equipment repair and replacement?
We have, in fact, we had a representative from one of the, Keith, are you in here?
I am.
Who's that representative?
Just, you can't see us short people back there.
We had a representative from what sports equipment company?
Oh, boy, I can't even think of the name of the company, but he's an expert in his field in sports equipment. And oftentimes he sets up large commercials and commercial fitness centers, but also association, community fitness centers as such. So we rely on that type of expertise to figure out the types of equipment that are for this type of community, but also the proper spacing to give people the right breathing air, if you will, while you're working out. I don't think anybody likes jogging on the same treadmill right next to somebody that's breathing all over each other. If I could capitalize a little bit on what you talked about, the cost, Bruce, you'd asked about the additional costs. Basically, the maintenance that we're doing on the current equipment and the cleaning of that room and the upkeep of the restrooms, the towels, service, all of that, it shifts from this building over to that building. So are we gonna realize additional costs to maintain it? Yes, you're gonna have utility costs. But by the same token, you're gonna realize costs of day-to-day business here in maintenance and utilities decrease somewhat because you've shifted a lot of that to that new building. So if you were to lay it all out, your estimated increase in cost over this building is a fraction of what it costs to take care of this one.
And you had a question, I think, about equipment. Right now, y'all, the equipment that is in our little fitness facility right now is in pretty good shape. So we're going to move that equipment into the new facility. And we have in the reserves again, and that means that money has been set aside for some new equipment to replace the equipment when it goes out. Well, that's in great shape, so we're gonna spend the reserve money for the time. I think we're ahead of, when were we supposed to spend that? I think we'd have spent it.
2017 is, we have X amount of money in reserves to purchase replacement fitness machines.
So we'll get some additional equipment. We obviously didn't spend that money last year. We'll probably end up spending that money at the end of this year, 18, or sometime in 19. So other questions, please. Larry?
Terry, I heard the gentleman mention $495,000 for the construction costs, and
Yes, sir.
thank you very much. Has anyone quantified the annual maintenance, insurance, the recurring costs associated with the new footprint? And can you, if you have, can you give us that number?
Yeah, Keith and I did some.
We crunched all the numbers. I gave Terry a spreadsheet. And that's what I was alluding to in talking with Bruce, addressing Bruce's question about the ongoing costs and the increases that will incur over there. It's a fraction. Before if I could step out, I could go dig out my spreadsheet and tell you exactly how much it is.
The ballpark would be fine. I mean,
I'm gonna guesstimate it's probably around $10,000
annual,
annually.
including
Because
the
you get the
insurance?
cost of your insurance,
Yes,
and then the utilities,
yes.
and all, that increase right there, so, yeah, about 10,000.
Mhm.
But understand something. To kind of simplify the whole budgeting process, if you want me to do that,
Yeah, please.
there's a couple different buckets of money, and sometimes we get confused about how the heck are we paying for things around here. You have one bucket of money called the reserves. The reserves is funded at $300,000 a year. It's actually $310,000 a year, or $26,000 a month roughly. That money that goes into reserves is for the maintenance and repair of roadways, this building, the swimming pool, all of the capital assets that you own as shareholders in the association. That money is off limits to build anything new, but rather that is set aside for upkeep of the capital infrastructure, capital improvements. The other bucket of money, now that's funded with your assessments, reserves is. The other bucket of money is the operations. Revenue that feeds into operations are your assessments. Revenue we get for, say, contractor sticker program, that's like $35,000 last year we did. NCC fees, that's designed to offset the cost of doing business NCC. So there's other revenue streams coming in, albeit it's not as great as the assessments, but it's a substantial amount. It's not chump change either. Over the years, the operations expenses have been well under budget. The past 3 years I've been here, the expenses have been under budget. So you've got a surplus there in not spending it all, but you have a surplus of revenue that's coming in that wasn't necessarily accounted for because you just don't know when these extra revenues are coming in. Over the years, that has added up. I'm telling you that right now, our cash in the bank to build this building as of 31 January is $540,000. That is net of all our liabilities. Do I have any accountants in here?
I brought mine with me.
Kind of like this. Kind of like this. When I talk about our liabilities, it's what we know is going to be an expense that we got to pay out of that cash. So this is net, $540,000 net of our next 2 months' assessments. We're not counting that. It's not counting any funds that we've got accrued for Waterford, Carriage Place, or Brownstones. It's accounting for proposed expenses, accruals that we had from the month of January. I'm telling you net, over $500,000.
And you all remember, we were not going to step off until we had the money in hand.
And that was the holdup.
Right, and
At
remember,
first.
we even explored, and some of you were here, we even thought about taking out a loan, just to, have backup. And Keith did some work on that, but it didn't make sense from a cost perspective. It would have cost us more money to take out a temp loan. So, from a financial perspective, your board, having made a recommendation from the planning committee 2.5 years ago, has very patiently, and we've tried to be very deliberate and methodical about this, we're there. So we want, again, that drawing is not final. So it's an opportunity for y'all, next couple of weeks, take advantage of those, suggestion cards, provide email comments to me directly, or to any board member. We'll consolidate all that. We don't have a contract final yet either. This is an important element. Terry and Alan are drafting the contract right now. Once that contract comes out, that contract will go through every board member and of course Steve Hall. And we'll drill it. But I'm very, very, very comfortable about that because I've been through this soup to nuts with these guys, as has Debbie, Keith to some extent, Carolyn to some extent, and Terry Hensley, who's kind of our interior person. So we're pretty comfortable about that. Please.
Question about the building again. Can you talk about the access that's going to be available to people? Is there going to be card access to the building, especially if you're not going to have additional staff there on site? How are you going to secure
What
it?
kind of access to the building? We'll either have, it will not be like this building. We'll either have card access or we'll have key access. We haven't decided which way to go. Obviously, that which is less costly will probably be the way we go.
They're deemed to be equally secure?
Well, yeah, the idea is that every family here would get a card, one card. If you want additional cards, you pay a nominal fee for the additional card. I think the key access is probably the more secure if we change it on a routine basis.
I have druthers as the operation guy, but
Yeah, we're trying to do we got to make it somewhat practical as well. Okay, Larry.
Since you were talking about buckets, Keith, has anyone done a rough estimate on the cost for the renovation of this building? That's the premise of why we're doing all this. A rough one. I know you're not in a design phase.
well, Tom, when he was on the board, was working with some contractors and got some ballpark numbers, but I think the premise has always been the money that is set aside in the reserve bucket for renovations of this building was going to be one of the primary funding sources to renovate the building. There was always question from a legal perspective of whether or not we could expand the footprint on this using reserve monies. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, that the answer was no, you can't expand it using just reserve monies, but you could use other sources. So, was an analysis done to do this? Not a scientific one. There's been a lot of discussion. We've been discussing the whole fitness facility for 2 years.
My question's more to the,
Keith, the question was, what's it gonna cost to renovate this building? We're not always talking about expanding the building.
Depends on the extent of the renovation.
Right.
Surely we have some idea. You said there was some preliminary work done.
Based on when Tom was on the board,
Yeah.
Tom, let me finish.
Yeah. Well, we know it's $206 a square foot. How many square feet are we talking?
Time out.
If you use my name, I'm gonna speak.
Please.
What we did, we talked about when you came in here, expanding the sides of the building going out, 5.5 feet on each side, giving you more storage space on that side. Had nothing to do with going here in the back. It was taking the gym over here and taking the closet out off the main hallway, moving the gym 3.5, 4 feet into there, moving the storage space to the front of the building. Those costs right there are about $80,000. That was to go from where the electric meter is to the back, to the front of the building, from the front of the building to an entrance walkway coming through, and going down this side to the back. Not enclosing anything else, not moving any walls. That was in the neighborhood of $80,000 to do that work. That's all he did.
Okay, and that was just soon after you came to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
3 years ago.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we have 70,000 in reserve to upgrade this, renovate this.
That's correct.
70,000. 70,000 is probably not gonna do it. Because the simplistic thing that we're trying to do, and I talked to you about this the other day, is you see where that wall is with the TV and the fireplace? That's gotta come down, just so we can increase the common area space in this building. We're not gonna do a hell of a lot more. Now Keith has given us some thought, you know, all of us have, but we haven't put pen to paper necessarily. So, if we could do it for 70 grand, ideally, I don't know, that's kind of, that's
So
not
does that also include a wall between here and there, like we talked about?
right.
So you're talking about a wall between this door and the door into the gym, and remove that wall. So this would become the meeting room, this whole end, and if it was used for aerobics or something else, at least it wouldn't be disturbing the management company so much, this open space and all the noise in there. That's what we had talked about before.
Well,
If that's the same process you guys are talking about.
yeah, and y'all, ideally, the most efficient way to do this at least cost, to do the gym, we roll right into this other project, because we've already probably damaged something out front, we made a bit of a mess, we just go from one project to the next. But, we've got to do a little more analysis of the cost and what's available. Again, we don't want this to be expensive, we don't want to go in anybody's pocket. I live here too, I pay dues, I'm not interested in paying more dues. Next question.
But Terry, you may can tell, where I'm headed with the questions is, I'm trying to get in mind what an overall bottom line cost would be for the projects, building the new one, renovating this one, furnishing it, recurring costs, just the bottom line.
They don't know. He just said he didn't know.
You might wanna think about that and have the board think through that a little bit and work on it just a little bit, because I think everybody here would be interested in what the overall cost is.
Let me give it, I think I can give you a pretty good estimate right now.
Okay?
$500,000, plus or minus, but more probably minus, for the fitness facility, and probably $50,000 for this facility.
50?
50?
You
No.
mean maybe
I
100?
thought you just said 70 wouldn't do it.
70 is in the reserve, that's accounted for, that money's available to us. So 70?
Plus 50.
So 120.
70 plus 50,
Yeah, 120.
So-
120.
And I think that's a reasonable estimate.
Now, you said in the minutes that this, and the invitation, that this would not increase our dues whatsoever. For what period of time are you saying that that's not gonna increase?
There's too many factors that go in. I'm not gonna investigate that, but I'm very confident that we won't see a dues increase for the next 2 years easy. That's not gonna happen.
Okay, so summer of 20.
When the big contracts come up for renewal, big contracts, Brightview, the management, that's normally when we've gotta look real hard.
Okay.
I'm a visual person, so excuse me if I need to ask this question of you, but if you take from the wall where the accordion things go across to this, how big is this area?
I think we measured in Maryland around 340 square feet roughly.
Just from your, where you're
From
standing?
where Terry's standing to where I'm at.
And, okay, so how big
Very easy.
are both of those, I mean, are
Each
they-
one of those proposes to double the space for each function.
Right.
So the aerobics room, or whatever you're calling it, will be twice as big as this room?
That's correct.
Okay. And what's the size of the fitness room now?
Right about the same size.
Right, they're almost
And
identical.
we're talking give and
That's
take
this
10
tall?
feet or whatever.
Right, that's correct. From where
No.
Keith is to me.
Yeah, this room is a lot bigger than the fitness center.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
seems to
this,
be a lot.
Well, we're gonna,
So-
we're gonna double, each room is going, and you've got the numbers right there, y'all.
Yeah, but the numbers don't mean anything. I have to see it. I have to visualize it. So I'm just trying to.
I'm the same way. I totally understand.
You know, I have to say, okay, well, I know how crowded this yoga room and aerobics room can get. So if we're doubling it, then I'd say, that sounds adequate.
And that's all we're doing.
And so that's what I need to hear, that, because I can't look at those numbers and
And
tell
Marilyn,
anything.
that's one of the reasons why we've looked at the previous, rough sketches that were done. Brought Debbie to the table, brought Terry Hensley to the table. Debbie is a fitness expert and she taught aerobics. Well, yeah. Many years ago. Exactly. I'm sorry. Maybe overstating your qualifications, but take it as a compliment. Thank you. But because she knows what it takes for a woman to feel comfortable doing aerobics and doing yoga, pieces of equipment, we asked her to look at it and be part of the committee. Terry Hensley also, as you know, is very involved with Kelly Fitness, and she has that same sensibility. Terry works out here all of the time, so he knows how crowded it can get. So we tried to involve people in the community to see what, using their expertise and their personal experience here in these buildings, what would work well. And so they were very generous and putting in a lot of time and looking at all this.
That helps a lot, because I've heard a lot of people say that increasing the fitness area in the space that you're proposing really isn't adequate. I mean, they say it's like 300 square feet additional,
Yeah,
and
I'm glad that we're having this discussion, because in point of fact, if we double the size of the current rooms, that's gonna help us a lot. And I'll tell you what I really think is gonna happen, y'all. And I've been wrong more than I've been right, but I kind of think that once we build out this fitness center, we're gonna have folks that are going off campus right now and paying $40, $80 a month or whatever it is, come back and take advantage of a nice amenity that they're paying for, so they ought to be able to advantage it. And the secondary function, remember y'all, that little fitness center over there is going to bring some kind of value and more utility to the tennis, men and women's tennis. They'll have that little back deck out there. You can, watch the tennis from there. They can access the restroom facilities a lot quicker. I just saw 2 women come in off the tennis courts. So we're trying to make this very cost conscious. What we do, we've waited until we've got the dollars. And we have the dollars now. We even have an excess. So I think we're good. Where we are right now is for y'all to give us suggestions on how you want the building to look differently. What do you want in the building? Those kinds of things.
And because people like Marilyn and I are very visual, it really helps that Alan and Terry have pulled together these graphics for us, so that we can get some sense of the possibilities. It helps me, and I'm sure it helps Marilyn and probably others of you too.
Might I also say, as a native and as a real estate broker, it's not just multi-value, it's added value. Because you can Google and see if there's any other community locally or in the Panhandle that has a standalone fitness center. I don't think it's a fitness center. I think it's a community center. You have fitness on one side, you have a rec area on the other side. You can do whatever you want to do. That's my take on it. But we add value when you have a standalone fitness center. When you bring people in, potential buyers, into this area and you show them the small fitness center, they're like, okay. What if you bring potential buyers for your property to a new fitness center? It's huge. If nothing else, we're adding to the value of our community. And that's the most important. We have the money and it adds value. I mean, it's
in the board mission
no
statement,
brainer.
part of our responsibility is to try to continue to improve and add value to your home in this community. And we give that a lot of thought.
And although I was on the planning committee when we did all this, if you lived here long enough, you remember the little patio we had. It used to end with the first columns. That was our patio. So we planned, bump it out. We have a gas fireplace over there. We have a summer kitchen there. The plan was to make it better and bigger, right? Tom, I think you remember all that going on. Nobody said anything about it because it added value. Think of the fitness center. It's a lot more, yeah, but it adds value. And it's gonna look great. We're gonna be able to take people there, do things with it. I envision that yoga center to be lots of other things besides just placing your mats and doing yoga in the morning. I'll be doing that though. But I envision it as a community center, not a fitness center. That's my belief, and I've said that for a long time.
This is our community center.
Well, I think what she's saying is that you can have teenagers with ping pong tournaments. You know, we were thinking, ping pong tables and things like that, where after school they can come and do things. You know, because a lot of them come, Terry can vouch for, he shares the equipment with them. They'll come here and work out. Well, they could also, if we have ping pong tables or other sorts of things that they could pull out of a closet, you know, they can do that after school.
Plus, this is used a lot. When this is in use, then you have that to go back on.
Mhm.
And it'll be the same kind of setup, run it in terms of reservation and stuff
Right.
for that area.
You're asking for input, and first of all, thanks so much for all the work you've done. It's been a lot of work put in this thing, as your handout shows. However, this project, look, I think we're talking about spending probably at least $650,000 before it's all done, said and done. The new building, the renovation, the furnishing, to me, it's gonna be at least $650,000. This is the largest project, capital project that I'm aware of since I've been living here, and I moved here in 2004. I think it would be wise to get the consent of the homeowners before you get legally obligated. Basically, have a referendum. If it's as beneficial as we're hearing today, and I think you're selling it very well, it should be easy to get the approval of the homeowners. Yeah, I think it does need to be sold, and it needs to be sold on the front end. If the board proceeds with this, and then later on, it's not just for the homeowners, it's for the board too, because if you proceed with this, and then there's some unforeseen problem later on, you're gonna hear forever, well, look what the board did, they didn't even ask us our approval. So I think it would be in everybody's best interest to have a referendum, and if I were on the board, I would not wanna go forward with this if the majority of the homeowners don't support it. That's what I'm saying.
Roger, we will take what you offer under advisement. We'll give it some
Okay.
consideration.
I'm just saying that's what I would do. You guys make your own decision.
Well, I hear you.
Even though we have the money there.
I'm just saying, if it's as beneficial as we're hearing, it should be easy. I mean, there should not be a fear of getting the approval of the homeowner. It should be an easy sell.
No, I think it's certainly not a fear. We all in this room know that we couldn't even get a proxy last year for our elections.
I'm just saying 50% of those that vote in the referendum, this has nothing to do with, the higher burden. Have a referendum, if 100 people vote, you need 51 votes, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we'll give it some consideration. It's just, it's harder. And we've got people that are badgering me about getting on with this dadgum thing. I mean, we've probably over-engineered this thing for the last 2 years.
Well,
But I take,
I've had my say,
Okay.
to make the decision.
and I appreciate your
Yeah.
comment, Brian.
And I would agree with him. I think the homeowners need to get behind this.
Well, I think your tape right there, if you can get that out to all of the homeowners.
I can.
I think that would be wonderful.
Okay?
Well, I'd like to make a comment here that this has been going on for 3 years. You've had 3 years to talk about it. I mean, 2.5 years. So where have the homeowners been? It's been discussed for 3 years. I'm one of the ones badgering them to get on with this thing.
It was never discussed $500,000.
Until
It was
you have hard
270.
dollars, until you have something visual, as Marilyn points out, and you have some hard dollars to work with, it's of limited value to be asking the homeowners, okay? Now is the time to ask, in my view.
Okay, y'all, again, I take the point, and you will give it serious consideration. But I tell you, seriously, we need you to get that disseminated,
Okay.
please.
Yeah, just like you said, at what number does the obligation of the board stop? And then it becomes the obligation to turn the referendum over to the community. I mean, I'm new here, but we've elected the board to do what's best for the community. And At what point do we say, well, that
Well,
stops and we have to?
You can argue that, I'm saying this is the largest, I've been living here since 2004. This is by far the largest project ever undertaken in the 14 years I've been here. So I think it's appropriate to ask for the homeowner's approval. Okay.
Okay? Next question, next point, please. Mary?
Thank you.
Dan? You good?
Good.
Okay. Jerry? Good? Okay.
Jerry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This isn't a question, this is just an observation, and it may just be really weird. But has anyone ever brought up that we would turn this building into the fitness center and build a better, newer clubhouse where you're talking about?
Actually, we've never considered that.
Because the outdoor space is so nice here that you can flow in and out. I don't know. if
One
you
thing
can
I
do that.
like about that idea is the parking would be so much more accessible for us older people than having to walk so far to get to this clubhouse. I mean, you've got a lot of people that find it very difficult.
It's a good point.
If the clubhouse were where you're suggesting the fitness center be, it would be much more conducive, with the parking so handy. The fitness people, they can walk, I mean, that's what they like to do. I mean, it's something to think about.
One thing to consider, the amount of property that's available to build on is limited. So it would be limited as to how big a piece of property. This building is sized to fit that piece of property.
And so what is the square footage difference between the new building and this building?
I don't know
They're
that.
close to the same size.
So, I mean, that kind of,
But the difference is, Marilyn, in the proposed fitness facility, there won't be any kitchen. You start building a kitchen, you start adding to your cost per square.
yeah.
But then you have all this
But-
outdoor space that you would be able to.
That's right.
So what makes it nice as your space to entertain is that it flows out and into the pool. There would be just a small porch because of the limitation of the size.
Yeah, no, I think there's pros and cons to both, I just wanted to throw it out
We'll
there.
give it some
You know.
thought, because I don't think any of us had ever thought about that. Okay, next question, please.
Comment more than a question. Maybe you start calling it an activity center, especially after introducing ping pong and things that. It makes it sound more inviting to more people. If you just call it a fitness center, it sounds like ex-jocks want to go there, you know, or something.
Actually, that's a good point. That's a good point. Good point.
Well, they say that.
In fact, Debbie's been beating that drum.
Because it's more than that. You know, when you say fitness center, then you think fitness center, you don't think what else is there. And it's a big amenity that's added to our community.
Well said. Okay, y'all, we got plenty of stuff back there. I see all that good health food back there, orange juice. So.
Fitness health food.
Hey, y'all, thanks very, very much for coming. We're gonna keep Terry and Alan around a little bit longer. I know they're ready to get the hell out of here, but they can answer some questions. And the board members will hang for a little bit too. Thank y'all very much for coming.